Hello fellow Ugandans and welcome back to the Tom Dark channel where we spread black pride worldwide. So typically when YouTubers get involved with traditional media, it doesn't go that well. In 2012, The Annoying Orange, one of the most popular channels on YouTube at the time, managed to get a TV deal with Cartoon Network, starring another famous YouTube star, Tobuscus. The humor in the show was very much the same way it was on YouTube, and in a way that can be a positive. Kids who were already familiar with The Annoying Orange were able to enjoy the same kind of content they already knew, and new viewers would be able to do the same. However, the show would be canceled after just 2 seasons due to production issues. Today, the show is widely regarded as one of the worst things that CN has ever aired. But studios at the time still recognized the star power of YouTubers. So we got the Fred movies on Nickelodeon, which didn't have the most positive reception either, but they do have their moments.
If you're wondering why I'm acting rather extraordinary right now, it's because I haven't taken my pill. Don't tell my mom that I've lost my pills. I need medication, I need medication, I need medication.
But there's a lot of talent on YouTube, and they kept trying to see what stuck. In 2019, almost 10 years after The Annoying Orange was on TV, YouTuber Lily Singh managed to get a late-night TV show. It lasted just 2 seasons before going off the air. I think part of what studios were missing at the time is that all of these people's content just doesn't appeal to as wide of an audience as TV does. Looking back at The Annoying Orange, most of the popular videos on that channel are relatively short, typically around 3 minutes long. Now, whatever you think about The Annoying Orange today, and I don't really blame you, within that format, I mean, it definitely worked. But as 11-minute serialized episodes for TV, it just didn't really translate that well. This also applies to Fred, which, while widely loved at the time, the Fred character obviously didn't have the depth to transition into a 90-minute feature film, let alone 3 of them. As for Lily Singh, or Superwoman on YouTube, the thing that made her popular was skits. Why would she, of all people, be deserving of a late-night TV show? After nearly 2 decades of trying and failing to make anything good come from a YouTuber, there's no doubt that studios were reluctant to even try. Now, as we all know, the most popular YouTuber before Mr. Beast was Felix Schellberg, and PewDiePie really is the definition of a YouTuber. He doesn't have a giant studio, he doesn't have a giant team, it's really just one guy in a room sharing his thoughts and experiences with the world around him. Doing that got him pretty damn far, and as a result, he even similarly got a TV show with YouTube Red, which was unceremoniously canceled for for reasons. The idea that the media coverage surrounding PewDiePie's controversies is fair is a ridiculous one, but the point can be made regardless of how we as YouTube viewers feel about it. Big companies do fear being associated with any kind of raunchiness or edginess that may make advertisers upset, because at the end of the day, they rely on the advertiser to make money. Creating a big budget production around one YouTube personality is great until you realize that YouTube personality is a based gamer and can go on YouTube and say whatever he wants and joke about whatever he wants, and then you're in kind of a tough spot. Once again, studios were presented with a problem that comes with working with online creators. I like to imagine YouTube employees calling PewDiePie at the time like, "God damn it, Felix, you can say the word, just not on live stream." But then along comes Jimmy Donaldson, someone who in less than 10 years goes from basically a nobody to a man with 300 million subscribers. He's got a burger business, a chocolate bar company. I mean, he's barely even a YouTuber. He truly transcended the label. And when you look at his content, there are a lot of things that could be appealing for TV. Previously, as I mentioned, a big problem studios had is that, frankly, the format just didn't transfer to TV. They were stretching like a 3-minute Annoying Orange video, into like a TV show. It doesn't really work. But with Mr. Beast, this doesn't really apply. His videos instantly skip over that qualm because they can vary in length from 15 to 20 minutes to 25 to even 30. And what's better is his content isn't even really about him. I mean, sure, he's the face, but he's the face for an entire production team that he runs regularly, which is capable of creating content that 10 years ago, no one could even imagine would be on YouTube. With the Mr. Beast industrial complex behind him, he's even been able to rival and far surpass the production of average television shows. Like when he recreated Netflix's Squid Game with an impressive budget of $3.5 million for one single video. A video which, by the way, got 650 million views. That's more viewership than any TV show has gotten almost ever. And if you look at the content of these videos, it's basically reality TV challenges. It's something that would be a perfect transition to a serialized TV show. You just take one of his videos and make 10 of them, and then you put them on whatever streaming service you want. It's perfect. To studios, Mr. Beast was certainly a dream. So it wasn't really surprising when announcements came of his deal with Amazon Prime. He signed a $100 million deal to produce the show in an unprecedented event for YouTubers everywhere, proving single-handedly that online content creators are taken just as, if not even more seriously than those working from traditional avenues. It was set to be the most ambitious project in game show history. The most contestants, the largest cash prize of $5 million, and that's not all. In interviews released prior to production, like right when the deal was announced, Jimmy had put a big emphasis on creative creative control. He said this wouldn't be some censored, cringe, dumbed-down version of YouTube made to appeal to the masses. He was going to be running the show.
When it came to the negotiation, what was most important to you? Hold on.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the list of 3.
Okay.
Money, creative control, ownership.
Ooh, money, creative control. The first one's easy. Creative control. Like, if there's no creative control, if it's not even creative control, there's just no control of every single frame that's going out of the show, then I'm not doing it. Like, it's like, there's no way I'm coming from YouTube where I can just do whatever I want in the videos, and then to a world where someone else tells me, because that's just not fair to the audience, right? They're trusting when they come over that it's content that I back. And like, I just don't care what some exec says is good content. Like, I literally couldn't care less. You know what I mean?
Creative control is a huge deal. Being able to do what you want and make what you want without the threat of white-collar executives is essentially the dream of every creative who wants to do anything in the industry. And Jimmy was able to make these demands because, frankly, he showed himself capable of doing both time after time after time. He could not only create a good product that people genuinely seem to love, but he could also make enough money to fund the next one and keep the ball rolling. In an interview with Business Insider, the head of Amazon MGM Studios expressed her excitement at what Jimmy had to offer. Another insider said, "We really need a hit, so they just let him do whatever." For onlookers, it seemed like there was no doubt that Mr. Beast could pull it off, just like he'd pulled off every video in his past. But there was a lot riding on this, and Jimmy himself acknowledged the risks.
Hopefully, if this does well, I would love to, because I can't talk too much game because I need it to crush first. The more I say now, if it ends up flopping, I'm screwed. You know what I mean? I already said so much, but hopefully it ends up crushing, and then people can go like, look, they trusted Jimmy and look what he delivered. Trust me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, it's destined for success. It's meant to be. Nothing bad could ever happen, right? Mr. Beast is, he's God, frankly. Or is he the devil? Chris Tyson got exposed, and as we all know, that caused a giant snowball of controversy to roll and roll and roll until you have the situation we're in today, a situation that could cost him his Amazon deal. Or at the very least, it could stop him from getting another one. And the biggest threat to this kind of stuff is not Chris Tyson, it's not even the RSO Delaware, who was employed apparently by the Beast Industrial Complex. No, the biggest concern is seemingly more mundane, but also far more interesting. It's the fact that Mr. Beast, despite his confidence, is seemingly incapable of running a production of this scale. So for the Mr. Beast show, the Beast Industrial Complex managed to secure Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. It's like a huge stadium, it's got a capacity of 65,000, and is frequently used for NFL games, so it undoubtedly cost an ungodly amount of money. While initially 1,000 contestants were promised, about 2,000 were actually transported to the stadium for filming. Videos were posted online of these contestants at various hotels nearby wearing what some are describing as trash bags, but to be charitable to Mr. Beast, it's more likely that they're cheap ponchos to keep them dry in the event of rainy weather. Now, the guy who took this photo actually asked some of these contestants, basically, are you here for the Mr. Beast video? And they refused to talk about it, seemingly because they were under NDA, because he doesn't want details of the show getting out ahead of time. But there was an ungodly amount of people in one place. In fact, one publication reported that the line of people went on for half a mile. With thousands of people in one place, there's bound to be a few problems. In the past, we wouldn't hear about any of these reports of issues, at least for a while, because social media just wasn't a thing. You couldn't just easily post to Twitter about your bad experience, about your girlfriend cheating on you, about how this guy was so mean to me, okay? Or if something, actually serious happened, the same would apply. Back then, you couldn't just shoot a text to an email or newspaper. You had to, send a telegraph or a fax or something. What the hell is a fax? But in the age of the internet, we don't find out about supposed behind-the-scenes issues 10 years after the fact. We find out yesterday. Anyone who has a problem with anything can just take out their phone and post about it. Obviously, NDAs do exist, but the idea that out of 2,000 potential people at the very least, no one's going to say anything, it's an unrealistic expectation. On July 18th of 2024, Vital Vegas reported that they talked to a source claiming that Desert Springs Hospital nearby had seen countless patients coming in due to lack of food and water. One employee claimed that they had had 3 or 4 evacs that day, but at night is when things truly heated up. Supposedly, nighttime is when the competitions were actually taking place, during which the hospital became overwhelmed with visits. This employee describes the production as a shit show that was unequipped to deal with so many people in one place. Some contestants told Vital Vegas they had a great time. Others listed a number of complaints, which news outlets and YouTubers began talking about. Then finally, on August 2nd, 2024, the allegations truly went mainstream as the New York Times published their article on the allegations. The writer, Madison Kircher, recalled that several contestants remember being asked if they'd be able to swim to shore if thrown overboard from a boat. vote. Now, obviously, that's not anything out of the ordinary. I mean, if you're doing very strenuous physical activity, it makes sense to be, informed of that ahead of time and asked about it. But the Times also reviewed a contract from one of these contestants, claiming that it read, "I understand that such activities may cause me death, illness, or serious bodily injury, including but not limited to exhaustion, dehydration, overexertion, burns, or heat stroke." Now, the Times also points out that such language is pretty common in reality TV show stuff. I mean, you imagine something like Survivor, obviously. There's multiple people who have died on Survivor, actually. So it makes sense if you have this many people involved in a challenge, 2,000 people at once, maybe one of them could die, okay? It's possible. It's definitely not a nice reality of reality TV, but it does happen sometimes, unfortunately. However, the contestants also describe what the Times says are more mundane yet potentially dangerous inconveniences that came up during the competition. More than 12 people told the New York Times they had not received the proper food for the competition or proper medical care. Some of the competitors talked about the injuries they suffered. Apparently, some of them left on stretchers, although it's unclear what exactly their afflictions were in each case. Some other contestants claimed to have seen others vomiting and appearing to faint, with all of this resulting in a number of hospital visits, which is what overwhelmed the hospital overnight. Now, obviously, there's a lot of injury that can come from, extreme physical activity, challenges like Mr. Beast does, but one thing that's really important is that him and his team are doing their best to prevent that, to prevent any situation like that from occurring, because, sometimes crazy shit happens. That's somewhat understandable, very unfortunate, but it does happen. But it's still on the team to make sure that they're doing their best to avoid anything like that happening. And unfortunately, from what people are saying, it seems that was not the case. Food, okay? Don't know what it is? I'm here to inform you, okay? Food is a basic human necessity, okay? You gotta eat to live. If you haven't eaten for long enough, you feel lethargic, you feel distressed. It's something we've all experienced to an extent. At a certain point, if you haven't eaten for long enough, it's really all you can think about. When you couple a lack of food with physical activity, you have a big recipe for disaster. The New York Times writes that several contestants also said they had not been warned about how little they would be given to eat and how infrequently. They described going on long stretches without being fed by the production. One said she had gone over 20 hours both during the games and while they were in Las Vegas before and after filming without eating. If this is true, this is a huge failure on part of Mr. Beast and his production and everyone involved. At the bare minimum, if you're bringing out people to a massive event like this where they'll be competing in a show with various physical challenges and you're telling them that they're going to be fed, then they need to be fed, point blank. And apparently what they were fed was hardly adequate for some of the contestants. Among those who got meals, a few said the meal they did receive was one hard-boiled egg, cold oatmeal, and a few pieces of raw vegetables. Doesn't sound like the most appetizing thing in the world to me, but hey, we can write this one off a little bit because I don't think competitors should be expecting a 5-star meal, or even to a lesser degree, slop from their favorite fast food shack. The greater concern is the amount of food and the access to it. Meals throughout the games were small and sporadic, contestants said. It was difficult to keep track of time without watches or phones, but contestants estimated they had been fed twice a day, once in the early morning and again in the afternoon or evening. A spokesperson for Mr. Beast said contestants had been offered 3 meals a day. Some people also claimed that the production staff was passing around Feastables chocolate bars so they could do an ad. And that's fine. I mean, the candy sucks, but hey, you gotta film your, shitty candy ad. I get it. The real concern though, I think should be that these people are being fed outside of that. Another main concern is that people with dietary restrictions are not served things that they can't eat, or at least given other options. Before the competition, contestants filled out forms detailing their dietary needs. An FAQ, a document provided to contestants in advance of the event and reviewed by the Times, said that all dietary and food restrictions would be taken into consideration. But several contestants said they had been served food they were allergic to and that alternatives had not been provided. But we've all done a little fast from time to time, okay? Maybe an aggressive cut is just what these fatties needed to break their disgusting goy slop diet. And on top of that, I mean, what? You're allergic to peanut butter? What, are you gonna get sick or die or something? Coward.
I don't like peanut butter. I'm good.
All right, then let's get Ethan. You want food?
He's eating this cracker.
I'm hungry.
He's after my
I'm hungry.
Don't touch Stella's cracker.
However, the food, or lack thereof, as well as people not being provided with food they can actually eat, unfortunately seems to be the least concerning thing contestants are talking to publications about. Like I said, with 2,000 people in one place, someone's bound to get hurt no matter what. If you couple that with physical activity like running and jumping, it goes up by a factor of, 10, 20, 5 million times, who knows. On top of that, there's also things like pre-existing medical conditions that put some people at higher risk of injury than others. And then on top of that, you've got, specific medications some people need to treat illnesses, disorders, diseases. There's a lot of variables here. So contestants said that when they got to the competition, they had to turn in their phones and belongings, including medications. They were apparently told these meds would be distributed to them whenever the time came to get them. But apparently that did not happen, and several did not receive their medication on time. Now, in some cases, obviously skipping one day of your meds can be totally fine, of course. People who take ADHD meds may prefer to have them, but they're not going to die without it. The same does not apply to diabetics, who, without insulin can start getting sick within 12 to 24 hours from their last injection. Within 24 to 48 hours, they'll suffer from diabetic ketoacidosis, which can be very life-threatening. So they gotta have it, basically. They need insulin. One contestant apparently did not receive their insulin on time, although we don't know if any serious health risks were sustained. Other contestants said they'd not receive their meds for hours or even days after their scheduled dosing time. This allegation in particular does seem to have some merit, as another outlet reported that contestants had not been given a single dose of their meds 2 days into the competition. Allegedly, the staff denied food to diabetics, denied water to contestants, and at least 2 individuals have had seizures as a result. There are a number of other claims being made as well. One that contestants were told to hand over a Ziploc bag with 5 days of underwear, but then it took them days to actually receive it. One woman said that when she and a group of contestants who were menstruating during the event had asked the production staff about getting their underwear more quickly, she had been told it was not a medical emergency, and she recalled that a nearby member of the production staff had laughed at the woman's pleading. Based! So freaking based, dude! Woman L, menstruation L, woman-owned Mr. Beast is for the boys. Now keep in mind these are allegations being made, but with so many similar reports to different outlets, it's very unlikely that none of this is true. Frankly, when taking on a project of this scale with this many people involved, keeping everyone happy is impossible, and avoiding these issues entirely is very difficult. But there seems to be a general impression from everyone involved that the production staff was completely unequipped to deal with 2,000 people. They were very disorganized and were really trying to play things by ear, which can work for a silly YouTube video with a few people involved, but when you have thousands of people in one place, proper planning and preparation is extremely important, especially in regards to basic necessities like food, water, clean underwear, and medications, all things that several contestants claim to be going without. Now, a lot of outlets have reached out to Mr. Beast's team for comment, and they've been pretty tight-lipped, which is to be expected, although a few small responses were made. On July 20th, apparently Mr. Beast's rep said that there were a few medical events unrelated to the game's production, one involving someone being dehydrated, but he assured the press that there was plenty of water and Gatorade there, along with plenty of medical staff who immediately addressed the issue. But on the 21st, a production member then confirmed that medication and underwear were not being kept track of or handed out at the appropriate times. At one point, they ran out of Gatorade, they ran out of food, and personal and feminine hygiene products were apparently non-existent up until a certain point. Once again, woman L, based. Once again, one contestant claimed 2 people had seizures as a result of not being given their meds. Mr. Beast's rep simply said that this info was inaccurate. Upon questions about further comment, the team commented on the CrowdStrike situation and poor weather contributing to it. Now, you may have heard about this CrowdStrike thing, but you may not really know what it means. Essentially, CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity company used by a lot of big businesses like airline companies, Target, etc. In early August, they attempted to do an update which crashed the entire system and caused one of the biggest IT outages in history, causing a lot of damage to a lot of huge businesses. That being said, I fail to see how this had a serious effect on the Beast team's ability to have food, water, and medications available for contestants. The truth is probably somewhere more along the lines of Mr. Beast had never done a contest of this scale, and as a result, it led to a lot of mistreatment, negligence, and irresponsible behavior, basically. The team promised that regardless, they would use this incident as a learning experience to improve upon. And honestly, I am willing to believe that whatever happened to these contestants was not an intentional move to not give them their meds, because that would be assuming another level of evil that, even for Mr. Beast at this point, seems pretty retarded. I think the most likely explanation is that it was a systematic failure as a result of not being prepared. But the fact remains that it was a failure, and people have been, or easily could have been, seriously hurt. Not even in ways that relate to the challenge. Unless, of course, the challenge is to see how long you can go without getting your insulin, in which case, Godspeed. Now, on YouTube, Mr. Beast seems untouchable. Despite the controversies around Chris Tyson and hiring a registered child enjoyer onto his team, his latest video has 100 million views. But for Amazon, it's a different story. We all know about the $100 million deal. What you may not know is that there wasn't just a lot riding on this for Mr. Beast. Amazon Prime Video was hoping this would breathe serious life into their ad spot sales program. Prior to the controversy, a top ad buyer had expressed interest in the show, even though the rate that they would be charged was comparatively high. With everything going on, it seems that they ultimately passed. And other things are also posing a risk to this deal. Mr. Beast is a former commentary YouTuber and product of 2016 YouTube, recently had to apologize for saying the F slur. Oh, the horror, among other things. And while this is stuff that you or I may scoff at, for a company like Amazon with a stock price to attend to, this can be somewhat concerning. And in retrospect, people from Amazon seem concerned about the fact that the company gave him so much freedom to just handle it all and do whatever he wanted. Because when given the creative freedom he wanted so badly, look what happened. And with controversy brewing and Mr. Beast being silent for now, frankly, he faces even more pressure to get this show done, and get it done without a hitch. Ultimately, the future of content creators securing TV deals could very well rest on if he's able to pull this off.
If it ends up flopping, I'm screwed.
And if he isn't able to pull it off, he's going to have to go back to the YouTube community, where, let's be honest, he has a lot to answer for. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Like, comment, subscribe to all the channels that I do. There's 4 of them, and you should subscribe to all of them, or else, I don't know, I'll probably do nothing, but I might do something. Bye.